This is part two of my Dark Side of the Ring review on the Chris Benoit double murder suicide tragedy. This video will focus on Vice's part two of their documentary. If you want to go see part one, I uploaded a video not too long ago. Uh, this is going to focus on a much more darker topic where it gets into the firm details of the murder, the suicide, and so many other topics. So I just want to give a warning to you guys watching this because it's going to get really dark. So we last left off with WWE Locker Room getting the news that the Benoit family was found dead. And this episode actually starts off with the actual sheriff that discovered Benoit dead, which is a big get because this is the first time I could remember Larry Alden, which is his name, actually coming out of the public to speak about this before the Benoit stuff happened. So it was a pretty big get. So it was June 24th, 2007. WWE called the Fayetteville County Sheriff's Department for a wellness check on Benoit after he sent various bizarre texts to Chavo Guerrero at like weird times, like at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and to other people in the business. They wanted to make sure that he was okay, especially since he no-showed the Vengeance pay-per-view. And so Alden was sent to the household with another officer. He thought it was just a normal sort of thing, like maybe Benoit was drunk or something had happened. Alden even admitted that he knew Benoit lived in that region. He would once in the blue moon see Benoit at the gym, but he didn't know the exact location until this very day. So the officers get to the house. The neighbor actually helps calm down the dog so that they could get in. And it was at that point the neighbor walked into that house to calm the dogs down, feed him. And the neighbor found Daniel Benoit dead on his bed. And the neighbor comes out screaming, David's dead, David's dead. And so in the documentary, they show crime scene photos. They didn't show the bodies, thank God. But they show various crime scene photos that were taken. Daniel was found dead on his bed. Nancy was found dead on the floor. Benoit was found in his weight room. And apparently, while they were discovering Benoit, they knew it was a double murder suicide immediately. WWE was not even informed yet, and they still went on with a 3-hour show, which was a tremendous mistake. And Jim Ross even admitted that WWE didn't even know all the information, and it was their fault for doing the tribute show without being 100% certain. And WWE's Vault channel has been uploading a ton of content. One form of content that will never be uploaded in WWE ever again, never on their Vault channel, never, ever again. You will never see that Raw Chris Benoit tribute show ever again, knowing what we knew now. And WWE uploaded it. And they did a whole 3-hour episode on it. So it was just dark seeing all like what was going on, them praising them, and then the next day the true details actually got revealed. And it's sad hearing Sandra, Nancy's sister, and David Benoit, Chris's son, finding out about how they were informed of the deaths. Sandra actually got a text from Nancy to go out, have a fun time, go to the mall, go watch a movie, have a good time. And while she was at that movie, she turned her phone off. When she got right out of that movie, apparently she had like 22 missed calls from her parents. And when they told her the news, she lost it. Like, she broke down in tears, and she admitted she had to go to the hospital to be sedated. And it's devastating. And David Benoit was in Edmonton at the time, living with his mother, Chris Benoit's first wife. I believe it was his first wife, if I remember correctly. The county sheriff kept calling them to inform them of the news. Eventually, David Benoit's mother finds out, and they drive from Edmonton all the way over to Atlanta. And David finds out that his stepmother, his brother, and his father are all gone. And it's so emotional to think what David Benoit was thinking at that moment, and it breaks my heart to hear what he's gone through, the media attention. Like this wasn't mentioned in the documentary. He mentioned it in Chris Van Fleet's interview with him. He had to not go, like, it affected him not going to school. Like, he had to stay back a few years because of all the media attention and how traumatizing what his father did. So we get into the details of the murder, and it's super graphic. And like I said, I wanted to give the warning in the beginning. So they got Matthew Randazzo V. He was the author of the book Ring of Hell, the story of Chris Benoit and the fall of the professional wrestling industry. That book gives the firm details of what happened, and it's terrifying. So during the weekend of the murders, Chris and Daniel and Nancy, they were having a barbecue. Then for some reason, later that night, there was an altercation between Nancy and Chris. Nancy was like, didn't take shit for, that's what Jericho said. Like, and there were previous domestic issues between Chris and Nancy. Like, I believe Nancy filed for divorce from Chris in either 2003 or 2002, if I remember correctly, before they reconciled. Anyways, going back to the details, Nancy and Chris had a fight. Chris went crazy, and then ultimately restrained her with duct tape. And then he grabbed a telephone cord, strangled Nancy to death. He brutalized his wife, and she was so brutalized that her back was broken. Like, Chris put his knee on Nancy's back and he strangled her. And once he finished killing Nancy, he put a Bible next to her body. And Benoit decided to drink alcohol and wine bottles. And then the next day, he decides to kill Daniel. He gave his 7-year-old son Xanax. And then he suffocated his son. And once his son died, he put a Bible next to his body as well. And then, for some bizarre reason, decided to plant a knife by Benoit's bed. And they showed the actual knife, like the crime scene photo knife in the documentary, and it's chilling. It's so chilling. And the creepy part, too, is after he just murdered his wife and son, he makes calls to various coworkers, including the one Chavo Guerrero mentions where Benoit basically says, "I love you." Chavo Guerrero is basically speaking with the man who just killed 2 people in that house. Benoit stayed in that house for multiple days with 2 dead bodies. So he goes to sleep. Next, Benoit decides to do some searches on his computer, and they're eerie as all heck. The first search, that was eerie. Benoit decides to look up a story about the prophet Elijah and the resurrection of a young boy. Like, we're never going to know why he looked that up, but he was probably trying to resurrect his own son, which is just terrifying to think about what he was doing those days and with that Google search. Obviously, that didn't work. And the next search, what was the quickest and the most painless way to break his own neck? So then afterwards, Benoit decides to go to his weight room. He decides to put the cord around his neck. He adjusted the weights to 240 pounds. Then he released it, and it broke his neck, and he commits suicide. And that's not all. Apparently, this is the most insane part of the documentary that is unbelievable. Chris was still trying to figure out if he could make a flight to get to the pay-per-view, the Vengeance pay-per-view, so he could go wrestle that night. Like, could you imagine if Chris Benoit, after killing his wife and son, found a way to get into the pay-per-view, like, to get there? The worst part is Benoit was originally booked to beat CM Punk that night and become the ECW champion. Imagine if Benoit went there, won the championship, and then everything happened of, like, his wife and his son was found dead. Terrifying to think about, you know? Like, that would have killed WWE, and who knows what the wrestling business would look like today. Heck, maybe TNA Wrestling would be the #1 wrestling show. I mean, maybe there isn't a wrestling business. It's terrifying to think about. And you know, Benoit didn't do it. He committed suicide himself. And once everything was determined, not the only person who really showed up to the funerals from WWE was Jim Ross. And Sandra lost his cool with Jim Ross, calling him being there was a work and that he was not welcomed at the funeral. It's a terribly sad situation. And Vicky was so angry with Chris, she didn't even want to go to his funeral. I mean, can you blame her? Unbelievable. And the worst, another bad part, and this does not paint the WWE in a good light at all. They did not treat Benoit's surviving family well at all. They pretty much ghosted them. And when the producers asked Sandra who in the professional wrestling business provided care for her or the family in the aftermath of the tragedy, not a single person. Nobody. And David even responds saying the only two people that responded or helped him out was Chavo Guerrero and Chris Jericho. Like, they threw him away like garbage. Like, yes, the Benoit situation was a rough one, but WWE should really be ashamed of themselves with how they treated Benoit's family. Insane. So the question everyone asks is why, and we're never going to know the answer to why Benoit did it. It doesn't matter. I'll get to my reasoning to that later. But the media coverage, which was very terrible, they claimed that it was a roid rage incident. And look, let's be honest here. Chris Benoit absolutely did steroids. I mean, look at who his idol was, the Dynamite Kid. The Dynamite Kid was heavily into steroids, and Chris obviously modeled himself as the Dynamite Kid. He absolutely used steroids. And Matthew Randazzo, who wrote that book, said that Benoit was using steroids from his time in high school. And the drug testing policy in WWE was full of loopholes. Nancy was going after Chris saying, we both know WWE's drug policies isn't full of nonsense. And Benoit's autopsy, this is crazy. He had 10 times the normal amount of steroids in his body for a normal human. And preposterously, he passed all of WWE's steroid tests. It doesn't pass the smell test that WWE was doing the drug policies right. And there were a ton of loopholes. This wasn't mentioned in the documentary. I like mentioning this with Benoit, but his heart, I read his autopsy report. His heart was 3 times the size of a normal human being. And with all the steroid abuse and with all the drugs he was taking, the alcohol and the grind of pro wrestling, according to Sandra, she got word from the medical examiner that Chris's heart was ready to explode and he had about 10 months left to live. That's how bad his heart was. And rewatching Benoit's last match with Elijah Burke in ECW, you could see him rubbing his chest a lot. And not only was he in that concussed state, he was clearly concussed in that match, but he was rubbing his heart like chest. You could tell that there was something wrong with his heart. So, of course, we'll talk about the brain stuff. It was clear Chris had CTE. They got Chris Nowinski to be interviewed here. He is he runs the Concussion Legacy Foundation for Boston University. Like I mentioned in the Daphne episode, Daphne always said, my brain goes to Boston. Chris Nowinski runs that whole program in Boston. And with Nowinski, basically, throughout this entire thing, with this being a roid rage incident, he was like, there's no way. There's no chance in hell that it's a roid rage incident. And he remembered a conversation that he had with Benoit because he was starting to write a book on the concussions. And Benoit straight up admitted he doesn't know how many concussions that he had. He lost track. I mean, with the flying headbutt that he had done and all the moves and all the bumps he had, of course he had CTE. And Benoit's dad gave permission for Nowinski to analyze his brain. And it was one of the worst cases of CTE he's ever seen. This wasn't mentioned, but like it resembled the brain of an 85-year-old Alzheimer's patient. That's how bad his brain was. And is it 100% the reason why he did what he did? We're never going to know. Like I said, it's absolutely one of the many few reasons why he did what he did. But the worst part is we're never going to know the real reason why. Now, there was a suicide note. Benoit basically wrote in his suicide note, I'm preparing to leave this earth. And I mean, there's a ton of whys there. Like Eddie Guerrero, like it was depression, it was alcohol abuse, drug abuse, steroid abuse, the grind of professional wrestling, depression. Like there was the brain damage. There's so many reasons why, and we're never going to know the reason why because Benoit's dead, and he's the only person that would reveal what he did. The thing that angers me the most when talking about Chris Benoit, not only for how he tainted his legacy, but the fact that fans keep saying, Chris Benoit, does Chris Benoit deserve to go in the Hall of Fame? He should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. No, he doesn't. That man he basically murdered his wife and 7-year-old son, and then himself. What he did was unthinkable, unforgivable. And Jim Ross even said that, if he was still alive today, he would agree that putting me in would be a tremendous distraction. He wouldn't even want to be in it if he was still alive and he didn't commit suicide. Just unbelievable. Unbelievable with what Chris Benoit did. He had such amazing matches, memorable moments in WWE. He tarnished his legacy and all those memories that weekend. Sandra and David, they were apart after this because of the tragedy. Both sides were told that they didn't want anything to do with each other thanks to what Chris did. And it's just devastating to know that wasn't the case. They both wanted to have a relationship, but they both had the thought that, they weren't a part of this. They didn't want to be a part of each other. And Sandra wanted to keep touch with David, but she failed after multiple attempts. Who actually got them to reunite? Chris Jericho. That's right. So this was during the AEW Revolution show. This was, I think it was the first one that they ever did. Jericho invited both to go to the show. There's even a clip of them backstage in AEW, reuniting, talking, and they're now reunited. They had a good time watching professional wrestling match. In fact, Sandra was at the interview David gave when talking about the tragedy. Him and Chavo Guerrero were there, and it's awesome that both are reunited and are on good terms. I just want to say that this documentary, it was a tough watch, and even though I watched it multiple other times, it's still so sad to watch, of a man who threw away everything, and there's no good reason for what he did. Paul Heyman said it best. 3 people died in that house. Only one person had the choice behind it. Like, he forever stained his legacy. Forever. You could separate the artist from the art. Like, I do it too. I can still watch Benoit matches. I can still watch that. But he will never be glorified. He will never be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame or any Hall of Fame. There's no forgiveness for him. There's no good reason whatsoever why he did what he did. Ever since that happened, everything's been scrubbed of Benoit. No mention of him. No highlights of him, nothing. Everything has been scrubbed. And the fact that there are people to this very day that ask if he should be in the Hall of Fame and shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame is absolutely disgraceful. It's unethical, and people need to stop. They need to stop. In fact, the only person in this situation that should be in the Hall of Fame is Nancy Benoit. She was great as the valet, as woman. And I can understand why people, it's going to be tough to put her in because every time you think of Nancy Benoit woman, you have to automatically think of Chris, but she deserves to go in the Hall of Fame. Enough of this garbage that Chris should go into the Hall of Fame. He killed a 7-year-old kid and his wife. Stop it. Enough. I've had it. It's just depressing. Vice did a very great job with this documentary. Rest in peace to Nancy and Daniel. They were taken from us way too soon. They didn't have the choice, and it's just tragic what happened to them. And it's a shame Chris Benoit forever tarnished his legacy. It really is. And that concludes my Dark Side of the Ring review on the Benoit documentaries. I hope you enjoyed part 1 and part 2. I'm gonna keep doing Dark Side of the Ring videos as well. Make sure you hit the like button down below, subscribe to the channel, comment in the comment section. What are your thoughts on the Benoit stuff, the tragedy? And I hope you enjoyed. Check out the rest of our content on StadiumRant.com, the YouTube channel. And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you. Acknowledge us.